Picture a street in a European city. The year is 1640. It is early morning. The cobblestones are slick with overnight rain. The air smells of wood smoke, damp earth, and the sharp, cold tang of the nearby river. You are walking slowly because you are in pain. Maybe it is a fever, a heavy, exhausting heat that has been burning behind your eyes for 3 long days. Or maybe it is a toothache, a deep, relentless throbbing ache in your jaw that makes it entirely impossible to sleep. Where do you go? You do not go to a hospital. In this era, a hospital is a place for the destitute, a place where people go when there is simply no hope left. You do not go to a university trained physician either. They are for the very wealthy. They wear long velvet robes. They look at your astrology chart to diagnose you. They speak to each other in Latin and prescribe incredibly expensive powders made from crushed pearls or rare spices. No, you are an ordinary person, so you look down the narrow, winding street searching for a specific sign, a wooden pole painted with spiraling stripes of red on white. You see it hanging outside a low timber framed building. The barber, today, a barber is just someone who cuts hair, someone who gives you a clean trim and a hot towel shave before waiting. But in the 17th century, the man standing behind that red and white pole is so much more than that. He is a barber-surgeon. The stripes on his pole are not just decoration. The white represents the clean linen bandages. The red represents the blood, and the pole itself represents the wooden stick that patients would grip tightly during a medical procedure. You push open the heavy wooden door. A small brass bell rings softly above your head. The shop is warm. It smells intensely of lavender, soap, pipe, tobacco, and something else, something metallic and sharp, the smell of copper, the smell of dried blood. The barber greets you. He does not wear a pristine white medical coat. He wears a heavy stained leather apron. His sleeves are rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong, highly capable forearms. He is a practical man, a man who works with his hands all day long. He points to a sturdy oak chair in the center of the room. You sit down. The wood of the armrests is worn completely smooth by hundreds of people who have sat exactly where you are sitting now. People who were just as scared, just as tired, and just as hopeful as you. You tell him about your fever, about the heavy heat trapped inside your chest. He nods. He understands completely because in 1640, the human body is not a mystery of microscopic cells and invisible viruses. It is a system of plumbing. It is governed by the four humors: blood phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health is simply a state of perfect, delicate balance between these four liquids. If you are sick, if you have a fever, the answer is obvious to him. You have too much blood. The balance is off. The blood has become stagnant, hot, and diseased. The pressure must be released. It makes perfect logical sense to him. And sitting there in the chair, it makes perfect sense to you too. He does not reach for a thermometer. He reaches for a small, velvet lined wooden box. Inside, resting on the soft fabric, are his tools. They are beautiful in a terrifying way. Small, delicate steel blades called lancets. They are sharp, sharper than any kitchen knife, kept meticulously honed on a leather strap hanging by the window. He asks you to roll up your sleeve. You feel a moment of hesitation. It is completely natural, but the fever is burning, and you desperately want to be well. He takes a piece of cloth, a tourniquet, and ties it tightly around your upper arm. He hands you a short wooden stick. He asks you to grip it. You squeeze the wood. Your veins begin to rise blue and prominent against your pale skin. He selects a lancet. He steps close to you. You can hear him breathing. You can hear the fire crackling in the stone hearth across the room. You close your eyes. There is a quick, sharp pinch on the inside of your elbow, a sudden startling bite of cold steel, and then a feeling of warmth running down your arm. He holds a small brass bowl beneath your arm to catch the blood. The bowl is called a bleeding basin. It has a small semicircular notch cut out of the rim designed to fit perfectly against the curve of your arm so not a single drop is spilled. Drip, drip, drip. The sound is rhythmic, steady, almost hypnotic. You sit there for several minutes. The room is very quiet. The barber watches your face closely. He is looking for a sign that the bad blood has finally left you. He is looking for the moment your body begins to relax. And the strange thing is, you actually do begin to relax. As the blood leaves your body, your blood pressure naturally drops. Your heart rate slows down. The pounding in your head, the intense, aggressive heat of the fever, it begins to fade. You feel a wave of lightheadedness wash over you. A soft, floating, drowsy sensation. Today we know this is simply the physiological response to blood loss. It is your body telling you to lie down before you faint. But in 1640, sitting in that wooden chair, looking at the brass bowl, that floating feeling is interpreted as a miracle. It is the feeling of the sickness leaving you. It is the heavy, toxic imbalance draining away into the bowl. You sigh, your shoulders drop, the tension leaves your neck. The barber sees this. He knows his trade. He presses a clean white cloth against the small cut. He binds it tightly with a strip of linen bandage. He wipes the lancet clean and places it back in the velvet box. He gives you a cup of cool water, or perhaps a small measure of weak ale to steady your nerves. You pay him a few copper coins. You step back out into the cool, damp London air. Your arm throbs slightly, but you feel different, lighter, calmer. You walk home, truly deeply believing that he has saved your life. This was the reality for centuries. Bloodletting was not a fringe practice. It was the absolute gold standard of medical care. It was used for almost everything: fevers, headaches, indigestion, asthma, even broken bones. If a woman was giving birth, they might bleed her to ease the labor. If a man had fallen from a horse, they would bleed him to prevent inflammation. George Washington, the first president of the United States, was bled heavily on the very day he died. His doctors took over half of his body's blood volume, genuinely trying to cure his severe throat infection. They were the best doctors in the country. They were doing exactly what the greatest medical minds of their generation told them to do. It is so tempting for us to look back and call it butchery, to wonder how they could be so blind to the harm they were causing. But think about the barber surgeon in his shop. He was not trying to hurt anyone. He was a vital, trusted member of the community. He cut the hair of the children. He pulled the rotting, agonizing teeth of the elderly with nothing but iron forceps and a strong wrist. He set the broken arms of the laborers. He provided relief in a world that had almost no other ways to manage pain. When he tied that cloth around your arm, when he made that small, precise cut, he was acting out of a profound duty of care. He was using the sharpest tool he had to fight an invisible, terrifying enemy. And sometimes, because the human body is incredibly resilient, people did get better. They survived the fever. They survived the bloodletting. And they went back to the barber years later to thank him. The red and white pole outside the barber shop today is a ghost, a quiet spinning memory of a time when a haircut and a minor's surgery happened in the exact same chair. It is a reminder of how desperately we have always wanted to be healed, and how much trust we are willing to place in the hands of someone who looks at us and says, I know what is wrong and I know how to fix it. Just sit in the chair, breathe deeply, let the image of the barber shop fade away. The brass bowl, the velvet box, the smell of lavender and copper. They belong to the past now. They cannot reach you here. You are safe in your own room, safe in your own time. Let us leave the 17th century behind. Let the heavy, damp air of the barber's shop fade away. Step forward in time. Let the years wash over you, moving faster and faster until the world changes completely. The cobblestones are paved over. The narrow streets widen. The sky is no longer lit by flickering lanterns, but by the steady hum of electricity. It is the early 1920s. You are standing in a beautifully appointed bathroom in a modern city. The tiles on the floor are a pristine, gleaming white. The fixtures are polished chrome. Everything feels incredibly clean, incredibly new. The world outside your window is roaring. It is the jazz age. Cars are moving quickly down the avenues. Telephones are ringing. The pace of life has accelerated in a way that your grandparents could never have imagined. But inside this room, it is quiet. You are looking at yourself in a large, clear mirror, and you feel tired, not just sleepy. You feel a deep, modern kind of exhaustion, a heavy, lingering fatigue in your bones. The world is moving so fast, and sometimes it feels so terribly hard to keep up. You need energy, you need vitality, you need something to clear the fog from your mind and put a spring back into your step. You look down at the glass shelf below the mirror. Resting there is a small, elegant bottle. The label is beautifully printed. It promises miracles. It promises to cure your fatigue, to fix your digestion, to ease the ache in your joints, to give you back your youth. The bottle contains water, but not ordinary water. It is radium water, radithor, certified scientifically proven radioactive water. Today, that word radioactive makes our hearts drop. It makes us think of danger zones, of thick lead suits, of invisible, deadly threats. But in the 1920s, that word did not mean danger. It meant magic. Radium had just been discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie a few decades earlier. It was a brand new element. It was entirely mysterious. And the most magnificent, captivating thing about it was that it glowed. It emitted a continuous soft, ethereal light all on its own. It generated its own heat. It seemed to possess an endless, boundless supply of energy. Scientists called it liquid sunshine, and the logic of the time was so simple, so wonderfully innocent. If this element possesses endless energy, if it glows with the very power of the stars, then surely if you put it inside your body, it will give that energy to you. It will make your cells glow. It will make your blood hum with vitality. You reach out and pick up the little glass bottle. The glass is cool against your fingertips. You twist off the small metal cap. There is no strange smell. There is no warning. You lift the bottle to your lips. You tilt your head back and you drink. It tastes perfectly ordinary. Just cool, clean, fresh water slipping down your throat. But in your mind, it tastes like the future. You set the empty bottle back on the glass shelf and you wait. Do you feel it? Perhaps you do. Perhaps your heart beats just a little bit faster. Perhaps the heavy fog in your mind begins to lift. It is the most powerful medicine in the world belief. The absolute unwavering certainty that modern science has handed you a miracle in a bottle. You smile at your reflection in the mirror. You feel better already, and you are not alone. Everyone is doing it. Radium is everywhere. You walk over to your vanity table. You pick up a jar of incredibly expensive face cream. The label proudly declares that it is enriched with radium. You rub a small amount into the skin of your cheeks, trusting that the invisible, glowing energy will erase the fine lines and bring a youthful, radiant flush to your complexion. You brush your teeth with radioactive toothpaste, fully believing it will make your smile as bright as the element itself. There is radium chocolate for a quick burst of energy in the afternoon. There are radium blankets to wrap yourself in when you are cold. It is a beautiful, shining, glowing dream, and nobody knows. Nobody knows the truth yet. Let the evening fall in this 1920s city. The sun goes down. The street lights flicker on. You are lying in your bed. The sheets are soft and heavy. The room is completely dark, but it is not entirely black. You lift your wrist. Strapped to your arm is a new wristwatch. In the pure darkness of your bedroom, the numbers on the dial are glowing, a soft, mesmerizing greenish blue light. It is breathtakingly beautiful. Before this, if you wanted to know the time, in the middle of the night, you had to strike a match. You had to light a candle. Now, you just look at your wrist and the time is glowing back at you, powered by the magic dust of radium. You stare at that little glowing circle for a long time. It feels like you are holding a captured star right there in your bedroom. As you watch that soft green light, I want you to think about where it came from. Think about the girls who painted those dials. They are known to history as the Radium Girls, young, cheerful, hard-working women in factories in New Jersey and Illinois. They sat at long wooden tables day after day with tiny, delicate camel hair brushes. They dipped the brushes into a mixture of water glue and radium powder, and to make the tip of the brush sharp enough to paint the tiny numbers on the watches, they were told to point the brush with their lips. Dip point paint, dip point paint. Thousands of times a day, they consumed the glowing dust entirely by accident, entirely because they trusted the man who told them it was perfectly safe. Sometimes, just for fun, they would paint their fingernails with the radium. They would paint their teeth so they could flash a glowing, ghostly smile at their friends in the dark. When they walked home from the factory at night, their clothes, their hair, their skin, it all glowed softly in the dark streets. They looked like angels, like glowing, radiant angels walking through the city. There is such a profound, heartbreaking tragedy in that image. But there is also an incredible, profound innocence. They didn't know. The people buying the watches didn't know. You drinking the water from the little glass bottle didn't know. Humanity had opened the door to a power we did not yet understand. We were like children playing with something vast and ancient and quietly dangerous. We only saw the light. We didn't see the shadow it cast. Eventually, the dream faded. The truth emerged. The bottles of Radithor were pulled from the shelves. The glowing face creams were locked away. The Radium Girls fought for justice, and their quite tragic bravery changed labor laws and workplace safety forever. They left a legacy that protects us to this very day. But for a brief, shining moment in history, people genuinely believed they could drink the light of the stars. Look at the glowing dial on your wrist one last time. Watch the soft green numbers floating in the dark. It is just a memory now. Let the light slowly fade. Let it dim and soften until it disappears completely into the quiet black of the room. You are safe. The water beside your bed tonight is just water. Cool, clean, and perfectly ordinary. There is nothing hiding inside it. There is no invisible energy, just pure safe hydration. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it go. The world of the 1920s is resting, and you can rest too. Let the glowing green dials of the 1920s fade into the dark. Let the jazz music stop. Let the roaring engines of the modern city turn into the quiet, rhythmic clopping of horse hooves on a cobblestone street. We are moving back in time again, just a few decades back to the late 19th century, the Victorian era. It is a time of heavy velvet curtains of gas lamps kissing softly in the evening fog. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. The world outside is entirely asleep. The street is empty. The sky is a deep, bruised purple pressing against the frosted glass of the window. But inside your house, you're awake. You're standing in the center of a dimly lit nursery. The only light comes from the dying embers of a small coal fire in the grate. It casts long, flickering shadows against the floral wallpaper. You are tired, not the kind of tired that comes from a long day of work. This is a deeper, heavier kind of exhaustion, a bone deep fatigue that settles behind your eyes and makes your limbs feel like they are made of lead. It is the exhaustion of a parent. You are holding a baby in your arms, and the baby is crying. It is not a soft whimper. It is a sharp, relentless, heartbreaking wail. It is the cry of a child in pain, teething. The gums are swollen. The tiny body is feverish. The child has been crying for hours, tossing and turning, unable to find even a moment of comfort. You have tried everything. You have walked the floorboards until your feet ache. You have sung every lullaby you know. You have rocked and swayed and shooshed. But nothing works. You look down at the little tear-stained face in the dim light. Your heart physically aches. There is no feeling in the world quite like the profound, desperate helplessness of watching someone you love suffer and not knowing how to stop it. You just want them to sleep. You just want the pain to go away. You walk over to a heavy mahogany dresser in the corner of the room. Resting on top of a lace doily right next to a silver hairbrush is a small glass bottle. You pick it up. The glass is cold and heavy in your hand. The label is ornate, printed with intricate Victorian lettering. It features an engraving of a kindly, gentle-looking older woman, a grandmotherly face. It is called a soothing syrup. Perhaps it is Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup, the most famous of them all. Or perhaps it is one of the hundreds of other brands available at any corner apothecary. The label makes wonderful, comforting promises. It promises to soothe the fretful child, to ease the pain of teething, to cure colic, to bring peaceful, angelic sleep to the exhausted infant. And by extension, it promises sleep for you. It is marketed as a mother's best friend, a miracle of modern domestic medicine. You do not need a prescription for it. You bought it at the local pharmacy for just a few pennies. Everyone uses it. Your neighbors use it. Your own mother probably recommended it to you. You hold the baby in one arm, shifting the heavy, restless weight. With your free hand, you pick up a small, delicate silver spoon. You pull the cork out of the bottle. The smell is immediate. It is incredibly sweet. It smells like dark sugar vanilla, the sharp, distinctive scent of aniseed or black licorice. It smells like a treat, like candy. You tilt the bottle. The syrup is thick. It pours slowly, catching the dim firelight, gathering in a dark, sticky pool in the center of the silver spoon. You bring the spoon to the baby's lips because it is so sweet. The baby accepts it easily. The crying pauses as the thick syrup is swallowed. You set the bottle down. You place the spoon on the dresser, and then you sit down in a wooden rocking chair by the fire. Creak, creak. You rock slowly, and you wait. The magic happens almost instantly. It is breathtaking how fast it works. Within minutes, the sharp, frantic cries turn into soft, hiccuping whimpers. The tiny fists, which were clenched so tightly, begin to uncurl. The rigid little body goes completely limp and soft against your chest. The breathing slows down, in and out, in and out. Deep, steady, rhythmic breaths. The baby is asleep. The silence in the nursery is sudden and profound. It feels like a physical weight has been lifted from the room. You close your eyes. You lean your head back against the wood of the rocking chair. You feel a wave of immense, overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude for the little glass bottle. Gratitude for the kindly face on the label. You stroke the soft hair on the baby's head. You are a good mother. You have taken away the pain. You have brought peace to your child. You sit there in the dark, rocking gently, finally able to rest. It is a beautiful, peaceful, deeply loving moment, and it is built on a terrifying secret because you do not know what is actually inside that sweet, thick syrup. The label does not list the ingredients. There are no laws requiring them to tell you. If you knew, you would have thrown the bottle into the fire. The miracle ingredient, the thing that brings such sudden, profound sleep, is not a gentle herb. It is opium, morphine, chloroform, codeine, heroin, and a heavy dose of alcohol to preserve it all. That little bottle on the dresser is packed with powerful, highly addictive, potentially lethal narcotics. The baby is not experiencing a natural, peaceful rest. The baby is heavily sedated, drugged into a stupor by a dose of morphine that would make a modern doctor turn pale. When the breathing slows down, it is because the narcotics are depressing the central nervous system. Sometimes, tragically, it slowed the breathing down too much. Many babies simply never woke up. They called them baby killers in the medical journals decades later. But you don't know that. The Victorian mother in the nursery holding her sleeping child in the firelight doesn't know that. She is not a criminal. She is not careless. She is just incredibly tired, and she loves her baby, and she trusts the world to sell her things that are safe. History often looks back at the Victorian era with a sense of horror at these soothing syrups. We wonder how an entire society could casually drug their infants. But if we look closer, if we really sit in that rocking chair with that exhausted mother, the horror shifts into something much softer. Empathy. We understand the desperation of a 3 a.m. cry. We understand the instinct to reach for whatever is offered to stop the suffering of someone we love. The medicine was wrong. It was dangerous. It was a failure of the era. But the intention behind it, the hand that poured the syrup onto the silver spoon, was driven by pure protective love. They did the best they could with what they knew, just as we do today. Let the nursery fade away. Let the smell of aniseed and sugar vanish into the cool night air. Leave the mother sleeping peacefully in the rocking chair, the fire dying down to a soft orange glow. The quiet of the house is settling around you, the deep, heavy stillness of the night. Take a breath. Feel the softness of your own bed, the safety of your own space. There are no bottles on your nightstand, no secrets in the dark, just rest, pure, uninterrupted rest. Let the warmth of the nursery fade away. Leave the dying embers of the coal fire behind. We are stepping outside now into the cool, damp, heavy air of a 19th century night. It is November. You are in Edinburgh, Scotland, or perhaps the narrow, winding streets of London. It does not matter exactly where we are. What matters is the atmosphere. The city is completely asleep. There are no cars, no sirens, no hum of electricity in the background. The silence of this era is deep and absolute. It is a thick, velvet quiet that settles over everything. You're standing on a cobblestone street. The fog has rolled in from the river. It is not just a light mist. It is a dense, gray living thing. It wraps around the iron gas lamps, turning their sharp light into soft, glowing, blurry halos. It muffles your footsteps. It makes the world feel incredibly small, incredibly private. You pull your coat a little tighter around your shoulders to keep out the chill. Just breathe the cool air in and let it out in a slow white plume of frost. Ahead of you, emerging slowly from the fog, are the tall wrought iron gates of a graveyard. The cemetery is peaceful. Stone angels stand watch over the sleeping world. Heavy granite tombs are blanketed in a soft layer of autumn leaves and white frost. It is a place of permanent rest. But tonight, in the deepest hour of the dark, the rest is about to be briefly interrupted. You stand in the shadows, perfectly still, perfectly safe. You are just an observer, a ghost from the future watching the past unfold. Through the thick mist, you see two figures moving. They are wearing heavy woolen coats and worn leather boots. They do not speak. They communicate in nods, in gestures, in the quiet, synchronized rhythm of men who have done this 100 times before. They are carrying shovels, but not ordinary iron shovels. The blades are made of wood because iron scraping against stone or gravel makes a sharp ringing sound. And tonight, sound is their greatest enemy. They carry a dark lantern, a lantern with a shutter that only lets out a tiny, thin beam of light, just enough to see the ground at their feet. History has a name for these men, a dark, frightening name: body snatchers, grave robbers. It sounds like the beginning of a gothic horror story, but I want you to look closer. I want you to look past the fear, past the macabre surface of what they are doing, because these men, in their own strange, grim way, are an essential part of the history of healing. They called themselves the Resurrection Men. They work quickly and with surprising care. They do not dig up the entire grave. They carefully remove a small square of turf near the head of the plot, setting it aside perfectly intact. They dig down quietly, steadily. It is exhausting, heavy work. The damp earth smells rich and dark. We do not need to watch the rest of their task. We know what they are looking for. We know what they will lift from the earth, wrap in a heavy canvas sack, and load onto a quiet horse-drawn cart waiting in the alleyway. The question is not what they are doing. The question is why. Follow the cart as it rolls slowly through the foggy, empty streets. It stops at the back door of a tall, imposing brick building. The windows are blacked out. This is the medical school, the anatomy theater. Let us go inside. The air in here smells sharply of camphor and strong spirits. The room is circular. Steep tiers of wooden benches rise up toward the ceiling, looking down at a heavy wooden table in the center of the room. It is cold in here. It has to be cold. Standing beside the table is a young man. He is a medical student, or perhaps a young surgeon. He is wearing a white linen apron over his clothes. His face is pale. There are dark, heavy circles under his eyes. He is exhausted. He has been studying for hours by the flickering light of a single tallow candle. Look at his hands. They are clean, carefully scrubbed, but they are trembling just a little bit with fatigue. He wants to be a doctor. He wants to save lives. Perhaps he watched his mother die of a sudden, mysterious pain in her abdomen. Perhaps he sat by his sister's bed and watched her struggle to breathe, her lungs failing her, while the older doctors simply shook their heads and offered useless herbs. He is driven by a profound, desperate desire to understand the human body. He knows that the body is not just a container of four humors. It is a machine, a brilliant, complex, miraculous machine of muscle and bone and pulsing vessels. If he wants to fix the machine, if he wants to operate on a living, breathing patient without killing them, he must know exactly what lies beneath the skin. He must know the exact path of the arteries, the delicate, fragile structure of the heart, the intricate wiring of the nerves. But in the 19th century, the law is completely against him. The government believes that dissecting a body is a desecration. The law only allows medical schools to study the bodies of executed murderers, and there are simply not enough of them. There are thousands of medical students desperate to learn, desperate to practice their surgical skills before they are faced with a living patient screaming in agony. And there are only a handful of legal subjects a year. It is a terrible, impossible dilemma. How can you learn to save a life if you are forbidden from studying death? So, the doctors, the respected, educated, noble doctors, turn a blind eye. They leave the back door of the anatomy school unlocked. They leave a purse of silver coins on the table, and they do business with the resurrection men in the dead of night. The young student, standing in the cold anatomy theater, does not feel like a monster. When the canvas sack is brought in, he does not feel a thrill of horror. He feels a deep, heavy sense of responsibility. He picks up his scalpel. The steel catches the dim candlelight. He looks down at the table. He feels a profound reverence for the quiet teacher lying before him. Because of this secret, dark, illegal trade, he will learn how to perform a successful amputation. He will learn how to safely remove a tumor. He will learn the exact location of the veins so that when a living mother lies on his operating table tomorrow, he will not let her bleed away. Modern medicine, the safe, clean, precise surgeries that save millions of lives today, was built in these cold, dark rooms. It was built on the quiet compromises made in the middle of the night. It is a strange, uncomfortable truth. The path to healing is not always clean. It is not always lit by sunshine. Sometimes knowledge has to be pulled from the shadows. The young surgeon takes a deep breath. The candle flickers. The wind howls softly outside the blacked out window. He begins his work, quietly, respectfully, seeking the light of understanding in the darkest of places. Let the image of the anatomy theater slowly dissolve. Let the cold stone walls fade into nothingness. The fog rolls back and covering the graveyard, covering the streets, covering the past in a soft, white blanket of mist. You are no longer in the 19th century. You are here in your own time. The air around you is warm. Your blankets are heavy, uncomforting. There is no cold draft. There is no fog. There is only the steady, rhythmic sound of your own breathing. In and out, your body is a miracle. A beautiful, complex, perfectly designed machine. You don't need to understand how every single part of it works. You just need to let it rest. Let your muscles soften. Let the tension drain from your jaw, from your shoulders, from your hands. The doctors of the past worked in the dark so that you could live in the light. And tonight, the only thing you need to do is sleep. Let the cold fog of the graveyard roll away. Let the shadows of the anatomy theater dissolve completely into the dark. We are stepping back into the light, but it is not the harsh, bright light of the modern world. It is a soft, golden amber glow. We are in Europe, perhaps Venice, perhaps London. The year is 1600. The Renaissance is in full bloom. It is an age of art, of exploration, of a deep, passionate return to the wisdom of the ancients. You are standing inside an apothecary's shop. Take a slow, deep breath in. The smell is absolutely overwhelming, but it is beautiful. It smells like 1,000 different forests and fields, all dried and concentrated into this one small room. Bundles of sage rosemary and dried lavender hang from the heavy wooden beams above your head. There are jars of cloves, sacks of cinnamon. There is the sharp, bright scent of dried citrus peel and the deep, earthy smell of crushed roots. The walls are lined with rows upon rows of ceramic jars and delicate glass bottles. Each one is labeled in elegant, sweeping calligraphy. Behind a heavy, polished oak counter stands the apothecary. He is an older man. He wears a velvet cap and small, wire-rimmed spectacles. His hands are stained with the colors of 100 different tinctures and powders. He is reading from a massive leather-bound book. The pages are thick, made of parchment, filled with the secrets of the natural world. You have come to him because you are not well. Perhaps you have a wound that is slow to heal. Or perhaps you suffer from a deep, heavy melancholy, a lingering sadness that makes your chest feel tight. You have tried the ordinary herbs. You have tried the simple teas. Now you need something stronger, something rare, something powerful. You place a heavy silver coin on the wooden counter. It makes a dull, satisfying clink. The apothecary looks at the coin. He looks at you. He nods slowly. He knows exactly what you need. He turns around and reaches for a very specific jar on the highest shelf. It is a beautiful jar painted with intricate blue and white patterns. He brings it down carefully. He places it on the counter. He opens the lid. The smell that drifts out of the jar is unlike anything else in the shop. It does not smell like a plant. It does not smell like a mineral. It smells like time. It is a dry, rich, incredibly ancient scent. It smells of myrrh, of frankincense, of black resin, and of the dry baking heat of a desert thousands of miles away. He takes a small brass spoon and scoops out a tiny mound of dark, reddish-brown powder. He places it into a small paper folded like an envelope. He hands it to you. You are holding mumia, mummy powder. Yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is the ground, pulverized remains of an ancient Egyptian mummy. Today, the very idea makes us recoil. It seems like the plot of a dark fantasy novel, consuming the dead, grinding up priceless historical artifacts to swallow them with a glass of wine. But in 1600, this is not a horror story. This is the pinnacle of medical science. This is the medicine of kings. Shakespeare wrote about it. Francis Bacon praised it. The King of France kept it in his personal medical chest. But why? Why did the brilliant minds of the Renaissance believe that eating a mummy would heal them? I want you to try and understand their logic because it is surprisingly poetic. They looked at the ancient Egyptians with absolute awe. They saw bodies that had defied the laws of nature, bodies that had not decayed, bodies that had conquered time. To the Renaissance mind, a mummy was a miracle of preservation. They believed that the black, tar-like substance found in the tombs, a substance they called bitumen, was a powerful, life-giving medicine. They believed that the vital essence, the sheer life force of the ancient person, was permanently trapped inside their preserved flesh. By grinding it up into a fine dust and drinking it, you were not doing something macabre. You were transferring that immortality into your own body. You were consuming eternity to stave off your own mortality. If this body lasted 3,000 years, surely a small pinch of it will cure your cough. Surely it will heal your wound. Surely it will lift the heavy melancholy from your heart. You take the small paper packet home. The house is quiet. The evening light is fading. You pour a small glass of sweet, dark red wine. You carefully unfold the paper. You tip the dark brown powder into the glass. You watch it swirl. You watch it dissolve into the liquid, turning it dark and cloudy. You lift the glass to your lips. You drink. It tastes earthy, slightly bitter, spicy with the lingering ghost of ancient myrrh. You swallow and you sit by the window, waiting to feel the ancient magic work, waiting to feel the strength of a pharaoh flow through your veins. It is a profound act of hope. You are reaching across thousands of years, across continents, across the boundary between the living and the dead, just to feel whole again. The apothecary was wrong, of course. The doctors were wrong. The powder did not contain magic. It did not contain a cure. Eventually, the medical world realized this. The trade of mummies stopped. The beautiful blue and white jars were emptied and washed clean. But for hundreds of years, human beings swallowed the dust of the past, hoping it would give them a future. Think about the immense touching vulnerability of that act. We all just want to be well. We all want to find the one rare thing that will finally make us feel better. Let the apothecary's shop fade away. Let the smell of myrrh and dried herbs drift out the open window. Let the heavy oak counter and the silver coins vanish into the quiet shadows of history. You are not holding a glass of dark wine. You are resting. Your body does not need ancient magic to heal. It knows exactly what to do. It heals itself quietly, softly, while you sleep. Every breath you take is a small, perfect act of restoration. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the dust of the past settle. Unjust rest. Let the golden amber light of the Renaissance apothecary fade. Let the heavy ancient scent of myrrh and dried herbs drift away into the past. We are moving forward again, closer to our own time. It is the late 19th century. The Victorian era is drawing to a close, and the Gilded Age is beginning. You are lying in bed. It is a beautiful bed, a massive carved mahogany frame, crisp, perfectly ironed white linen sheets, a heavy, intricately embroidered quilt pulled all the way up to your chin. The room is large and very well appointed. There is a plush Persian rug on the floor, a heavy oak wardrobe in the corner, a marble-topped wash basin, but the thick, dark velvet curtains are drawn completely shut across the tall windows. Only a thin, narrow sliver of pale afternoon light makes it through the gap. It casts a long, dusty, glowing beam across the floorboards. It is incredibly quiet. The only sound in the entire house is the slow, rhythmic, heavy ticking of a grandfather clock out in the hallway. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Every second stretches out. Every minute feels like a very long hour. You are awake, but you are not allowed to get up. You are a woman living in the late 1800s. For the past few months, you have been feeling tired. A deep, unshakable sadness has been sitting on your chest. You have felt anxious, nervous, overwhelmed by the strict, suffocating, endless rules of the society you live in. You went to see a doctor. He was a very famous, very respected physician. He wore a sharp suit and carried a gold pocket watch. He listened to your heartbeat. He checked your pulse. He nodded, gravely stroking his thick beard. He gave your condition a name, neurasthenia, or perhaps hysteria. Nervous exhaustion, he called it. He explained that your brain was simply working too hard. He said that a woman's delicate nervous system was easily overloaded by reading too much, or thinking too much, or worrying about things beyond the domestic sphere. Your vital energies, he said, were completely depleted. His prescription was absolute. It was a famous treatment pioneered by a physician named Silas Weir Mitchell. The rest cure. It sounds like a luxury at first, doesn't it? Who doesn't want to stay in bed and be looked after? But this is not a vacation. It is a medical sentence. You are not just resting. You are undergoing a total, forced sensory deprivation. You are not allowed to read. There is not a single book or newspaper in this room. You are not allowed to write. No pen, no paper, No keeping a diary, no writing letters to your friends. You are not allowed to sew. You are not allowed to draw. You are not allowed to have visitors. You are not even allowed to feed yourself. You must lie perfectly, absolutely still for 6 entire weeks. Imagine what happens to your mind when your body is completely immobilized. At first, you sleep. You sleep deeply and heavily, escaping into dreams. But eventually, you wake up. You have slept as much as a human being can possibly sleep. You open your eyes, and the room is exactly the same. Tick tock. You watch the dust motes dancing in that single beam of light. You watch them swirl. You watch them rise. You watch them fall. You watch the light change. That is your only clock. In the morning, the light is pale and blue. It touches the edge of the wash basin. By midday, it is sharp and white, cutting a line across the rug. By late afternoon, it turns to a deep, burnt orange. The shadows in the corners of the room begin to grow. They stretch up the walls. They pull around the legs of the heavy furniture. You study the wallpaper. It is a complex, repetitive pattern of vines and flowers. In the dim light, your eyes begin to play tricks on you. You trace one single vine from the floorboard all the way up to the plaster ceiling, over and over and over again. Charlotte Perkins Gilman, a brilliant writer of this era, was prescribed this exact cure. She wrote a famous story about it called The Yellow Wallpaper. She knew exactly how the mind begins to rebuild when it is trapped in a quiet, unchanging room. When you lock a human mind in absolute silence, the thoughts inside become incredibly loud. Without the distraction of the outside world, without conversation, without the simple act of walking across a room, your inner voice is the only thing you hear. It floats, it drifts, it remembers conversations from 10 years ago. It invents elaborate stories. It craves stimulation so desperately that the sound of a horse-drawn carriage passing by on the street outside feels like a monumental, earth-shattering event. You hear the clatter of the hoofs, the rattle of the wooden wheels. You imagine where the carriage is going, who is inside it, and then the sound fades away, leaving you in the heavy silence again. The door opens. The nurse enters. She moves quietly, her starched white apron rustling softly in the quiet room. She lights a single oil lamp. It casts a warm, golden circle on the ceiling. She brings a porcelain cup on a saucer. It clings gently. It is beef tea, rich, salty, and warm. Or perhaps it is a glass of thick, heavy, creamy milk. You are lifted slightly propped up against the pillows. You are not allowed to hold the cup yourself. The nurse feeds you spoonful by spoonful. The doctors believe that by fattening your body with rich foods and stopping every single voluntary movement, they will force your frayed nerves to heal. You swallow the warm liquid. It feels heavy in your stomach. The nurse wipes your mouth. She lowers you back down onto the mattress. She turns the wick of the lamp down until the flame sputters and goes out. She leaves, closing the door softly with a final, definitive click. You're alone again. Your muscles ache, not the ache of hard work, but the dull, restless, humming ache of profound disuse. Your legs long to walk, your hands long to hold a pen, to turn the crisp page of a book, to feel the texture of embroidery thread. But you must keep your hands folded under the quilt. The doctors who prescribed this cure genuinely believed they were saving women. They saw women who were suffering from deep postpartum depression, from genuine clinical anxiety, from the crushing weight of a society that gave them no choices and no voice. The doctors thought the cure was to take away the very last choices they had left, to turn them back into infants, to wrap them in blankets and feed them warm milk in the dark. They did not understand that the mind needs to move just as much as the body does. They did not understand that silence can be a medicine, but forced silence is a cage. But think of the incredible quiet resilience of those women lying in the dark, keeping their minds alive, memorizing poetry, writing entire novels in their heads, surviving the cure by the sheer brilliant strength of their own imagination. They were so much stronger than the doctors ever knew. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let the heavy velvet curtains open. Let the fresh, cool night air blow into the Victorian bedroom. Let the ticking of the grandfather clock fade away completely. You are not trapped. You are not undergoing a cure. The rest you are experiencing tonight is a choice. It is a beautiful, free, healing choice. You can move if you want to. You can turn over. You can stretch your arms. Your mind is free to wander wherever it wants to go. It can drift through the stars. It can walk through a quiet forest. Or it can simply peacefully shut down for the night. Feel the soft, familiar weight of your own blankets. They are not a restraint. They are an embrace. The silence in your room is not empty. It is peaceful. You are safe here. You are completely in control. Let your thoughts slow down just for tonight, just for now. Let the Victorian bedroom fade. Let the heavy mahogany furniture and the slow rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock dissolve into a deep, vast, and biting cold. We are going further back now, much further into the heart of the Middle Ages. You are standing outside. The sky above you is the color of bruised iron. It is the dead of winter. The wind is sharp, cutting straight through your thin woolen cloak. The frost bites at your cheeks. The mud beneath your worn leather shoes is frozen solid, cracking like glass with every small step you take. You are shivering. Your hands are completely numb, but you do not leave. You do not seek shelter because you are in a line. A massive, winding line of people stretching all the way across the frozen courtyard leading up to the towering oak doors of a royal palace. There are hundreds of you, perhaps thousands. Some are leaning heavily on wooden crutches. Some are being held up by their exhausted mothers. And you are suffering from a terrible, painful affliction, swollen, aching lumps on your neck, a sickness that drains your energy, leaves you weak, and makes every movement an agony. They call it the king's evil. Today, doctors would call it scrofula, a glandular form of tuberculosis. But in this era, you know nothing of bacteria. You know nothing of infections. You only know the pain and the disfigurement and the desperate, burning hope that has brought you to this frozen courtyard. You are waiting for the only medicine that can cure you. You are waiting for the king. In the medieval world, the king is not just a politician. He is not just a ruler of lands and armies. He is anointed. He is a living, breathing bridge between the divine and the mortal. And because of that sacred connection, people believe his hands hold a literal physical miracle. The royal teach, the line moves forward, slowly, so incredibly slowly. Your feet feel like blocks of ice. The smell of the crowd is heavy. Damp wool, wood smoke, unwashed bodies, and sickness. But there is no complaining. There is no shouting. There is a strange, hushed reverence in the air, a collective holding of breath. Finally, after hours of waiting in the biting wind, you reach the heavy oak doors. You step inside the great hall. The contrast is absolutely staggering. Outside, it was gray and freezing and miserable. Inside, it is a vision of heaven. Massive, colorful tapestries hang from the high stone walls. Enormous fires roar in the huge hearths, throwing a warm, dancing golden light over everything. The air smells of expensive incense, frankincense, and myrrh, spices you have never smelled in your entire life. And at the far end of the hall, sitting on a raised dais, is the king. He's wearing robes of deep crimson velvet and heavy gold embroidery. He looks incredibly tired. He has been touching the sick one by one for hours. You step forward. You drop to your knees on the cold stone floor. You do not dare to look up at his face. You are a peasant, and he is the Lord's anointed. A priest stands nearby, chanting softly in Latin, words you do not understand, but that sound like a gentle rhythmic, soothing hum. And then you feel it. Two hands, surprisingly soft, surprisingly warm, pressed gently against your neck, right over the swollen, painful lumps. The hands smell of rose water and expensive oils. The touch lasts for only a second, but it feels like an eternity. It feels like absolute safety. The king murmurs a blessing. A royal official steps forward and presses a small, shining gold coin into your palm. It is a touch piece, an angel coin strung on a pristine white ribbon. You are told to wear it around your neck forever to keep the sickness away. You grip the ribbon, you hold the coin tightly against your chest. It is the most valuable thing you have ever owned, not because it is gold, but because it is hope. You stand up, you bow deeply, you walk backward out of the hall, and when you step back out into the freezing wind, you realize something extraordinary. You feel better. The pain seems duller. Your chest feels lighter. You can breathe more easily. Is it a miracle? Science tells us that scrofula is a disease that naturally waxes and wanes. It often goes into spontaneous remission. Science also tells us about the overwhelming, profound power of the placebo effect. When you have walked for days, when you have stood in the freezing cold, when you have been brought into a golden hall and touched by the most powerful human being you can possibly imagine, your brain releases a flood of healing chemicals. The belief is so strong, so absolute, that it literally changes your physiology. To the medieval peasant holding the gold coin, it doesn't matter how it works. It only matters that someone looked at them, touched their wounds, and offered them a cure. In a world that was so incredibly harsh, so short, and so full of suffering, the royal touch was a moment of pure, concentrated grace. It was the ultimate reassurance that the universe had not forgotten them. Hold that feeling of reassurance right now. Let the golden great hole fade into the shadows. Let the chanting priests go quiet. Let the gold coin slip from your hand and dissolve into nothing. The cold wind of the Middle Ages cannot reach you here. You are safe. You are warm. You do not need a cane to heal you. You have the quiet, steady power of your own breath. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress. Let the warmth of your own bed surround you. Everything is exactly as it should be. Rest. We have traveled a very long way tonight through the smoky, copper-scented air of the barber-surgeon's shop, past the glowing, radioactive dials in the dark of the 1920s, through the quiet Victorian nursery and the freezing fog of the anatomical graveyards, from the dusty jars of ancient mummy powder, all the way to the grand golden halls of a medieval king. It has been quite a journey, but now we are back in your room, back in your own time. When we look back at the past, it is so incredibly easy to see the mistakes, to see the strange, sometimes frightening things people did to each other in the name of medicine. But I hope tonight you saw something else too. I hope you saw the intention underneath all of it. The barber, the exhausted mother, the young surgeon, the apothecary, the king. Every single one of them was driven by the exact same impulse that we carry today, the profound, undeniable human need to ease suffering, to look at someone who is hurting and say, I will try to fix this. I will try to help you. Medicine changes. Science evolves. We learn and we grow, and we leave the old shadows behind. But that impulse, that deep, desperate desire to care for one another, that never changes. It is the most beautiful, constant thread in all of human history. You are a part of that history, but tonight you do not need to fight a fever or seek a miracle. Tonight, your only job is to rest, to let your body do what it knows how to do perfectly, to heal and repair and find peace in the quiet dark. Before you drift completely away, I want to ask you something. Do you remember a time when you were a child and you were sick in bed? Nothing serious, just a winter cold or a mild fever. Do you remember what your mother or your grandmother used to give you to make you feel better? A special kind of tea, a warm, damp cloth on your forehead, a quiet story, a simple homemade remedy that wasn't really about medicine at all, but just about love. If you have a memory like that, I would love to read it in the comments tomorrow. This channel is a small, quiet community of night owls, and I genuinely cherish the stories you share. If you found some peace here tonight, consider subscribing and leaving a soft like. There are so many more quiet corners of history for us to explore together. But for now, the journey is over. Close your eyes. Let it all go. Sleep well, my friend. Good night.